Stephon Gilmore, I think, can absolutely still play. So giving him a 2-year, $23 million deal if you're the Colts, I think makes a lot of sense, and I am highly in favor of it. So alright, let's start off with something like this. Let's kind of just talk about who Stephon Gilmore is as a player first and foremost. And I think this play can be a good kind of example of really what we saw him do in Carolina. I didn't see this as much in New England, so I wonder if this is maybe a strategic decision by the coaching staff a little bit, but we saw a bit more of a passive Gilmore. He played a little bit more aggressive in New England, but still would do this in New England as well, where just to set the stage, it's man coverage, a one-on-one matchup where he is going up against Kyle Pitts, Atlanta's best receiver, even though he's, officially listed as a tight end, he's basically a receiver. Right when this play begins, look at how far off Gilmore plays. He just starts bailing very quickly. This is what Gilmore will do, and especially at this point in his career, what we've seen him do. And it's kind of what he's always done. He feels more comfortable running in than he does running deep, which makes sense. The last thing you want is to let a receiver get behind you. So in doing this, it's going to make things difficult to really get many chunk plays against Gilmore. And a few times we have seen the one thing that kind of, the one example I can think of, the Devontae Parker game where that ended up knocking the Patriots out of a bye week scenario, that was largely just through jump balls. Like, Gilmore doesn't give up much separation. But look at how, if you tried to throw that to Kyle Pitts right there, like, it would have been just a pure jump ball. Like, there was no separation whatsoever right there. So you would have just completely been taking a chance had you had made that decision. And that's kind of the value of Gilmore, is he's rarely going to get beat deep, if at all. And quite frankly, he's almost never going to give up separation deep. That's just not what he does. Even stuff like this, I think, is another great example of like double moves. He does not get burned on the way that you would expect him to get burned on, because most corners get burned on double moves. He does not. This is zone coverage, cover 3, and it's worth mentioning, he kind of gets viewed at as mostly a man corner, but he can play well in zone. And this is a good example where it's cover 3, and you see I've highlighted where he is. He's covering the zone closest towards the top of the screen. You also see the route he's going up against, which is kind of like faking as though it's going to be an out route, which out routes can be very deadly against cover 3 zone, but then he's going to eventually be running a deep route outside the numbers, is how that's going to end up working. But look at how, right when this play begins, so you see that this kind of fake, I think a lot of lesser corners would get burned too much on it. They'd take a step, or a few steps further in, as opposed to Gilmore, who, as of right now, he is in position to potentially run over and knock the ball away if Matt Ryan did throw the ball there. But then when that doesn't happen, he is able to still completely take away that top area of the screen, just completely took that receiver out of the play. This is what Gilmore has been doing his entire career, especially since he joined New England, and he even did this when he was in Carolina. He was even effective then. Now, the one, I guess, small negative you could point out if you wanted to is stuff like this, where, the idea of him maybe being a little bit quicker to bail and kind of relying on his great ball skills. Is stuff like this can happen, where I'm just going to circle him and the receiver he's going up against right there. And look, as you see, because Gilmore was quick to bail, that did allow for a little bit of separation, but it still wouldn't have been much. You're going to have to methodically move the ball down the field, and quite frankly, it's not a great strategy to be constantly challenging Gilmore, because he does have the great ball skills and can make you pay if you have one bad throw. So not exactly a huge negative, I would say. Now let's go over to this play, where what's going to happen is it's man coverage. Once again, he's going up one-on-one against Kyle Pitts. You notice he's in the slot. We've seen that a couple times now. He moves around. He'll play the slot. He'll play the outside. It's a matchup thing. If they feel like they want him in the slot, he'll play in the slot. And New England did this as well. What you're going to see is that you see the route that he's trying to cover here against Kyle Pitts. And it's really fascinating the way that he plays this, because while I keep talking about him being quick to bail, that's usually only on the outside. When he plays in the slot, it's less likely that he'll be as quick to bail. Look at how, Pitts fights through the press coverage, as he tends to do, but part of this is really Gilmore knows, because of the fact that he's in the slot, there is a safety deep. If Pitts is just running a go route and Ryan wants to hit him, he's going to have to throw it underneath the safety. That's just going to be a difficult throw to pull off. So for Gilmore, he knows where his help is, and that's a very important aspect of being a corner. So now he's just trying to cut off if there's a throw that isn't deep. Anything else, he wants to make sure he takes away. So when Ryan does make this throw, it just doesn't work out at all. Gilmore easily steps in front and gets the interception. So that's just kind of what he can do, is he's just really good at taking away your best options and kind of putting you in a situation where the only real way to beat him would be to throw into double coverage, which you just don't want to do. And oftentimes you're left thinking, like, let's just not throw it to him at all. It's easier that way. We also have something like this, where this is, again, he's in the slot going up against Antonio Brown, who's a good wide receiver. And what you're going to see is, again, you see how it's a route going to the outside for Brown, and watch how Brown is going to try to get the outside leverage. So look at how Brown's going to kind of think as though he's going to the inside, and the whole goal is, and it's kind of working, is Gilmore follows him there. But look at how quick Gilmore is able to turn around. As you see, as Brown gets to the outside, Gilmore follows him. Throw was a little bit off anyways, but there wasn't a ton of separation there, and it was going to be difficult to make that play. So just a really good, really good stuff from Gilmore, and he was still good even to Carolina tape, and I think this shows it. So if you're thinking like, oh no, he was just kind of a washed up player his last year in Carolina, that's not how I saw it. That's not what I saw on tape, and I'm sure it's not what NFL teams saw on tape either. So yeah, that's kind of just how I view this, is like, okay, you know me, I believe that coverage is very important in football. It's a highly undervalued aspect of the game, and if you can get really good coverage, you can win Super Bowls. This is a really good move from the Colts' perspective, and with Matt Ryan now on the roster, who, is affordable for this year, at least, by quarterback terms, because they get so much money, the Colts are, in my opinion, a true contender, and I think actually could maybe surprise some people. I had some questions about some of the moves they were making at certain points in the offseason, but now that's coming through, it makes a lot of sense. And one thing that I'm really fascinated by with this move is just the reality of the situation that the Colts don't typically pay free agents. This is very much not a Colts thing, so it's cool to see them do this, because kind of my whole thing about the Colts has been they're a team that if they're a couple free agent acquisitions away from being competitive, well, here's one of them. So again, this is still an imperfect roster. They still could use some receiver help. We've been saying that for years now. So that's definitely something that they need to do. But this is a team that's going to have a good offense because they have a good play caller, and they have Jonathan Taylor, and they have Matt Ryan, and good offensive line. And, again, not like they have a completely, it's Green Bay's receiving core right now. Michael Pittman's good. So I still think they could use another guy, but you get that. The defense should be good, and this is going to go a long way. Interested in a little bit how he'll do with the scheme of, they like to play a lot of, a cover 2 historically, although last year they moved to a lot more of a cover 3, cover 2 thing. And then, Eberflus is gone, new defensive coordinator. Maybe we'll see more single safety deep coverages, which is where Gilmore tends to thrive. And if anything, the scheme that he would play in the Colts, it would be easier, not harder, because typically the schemes that Gilmore plays tend to be schemes that kind of give him more of a, give him a bigger piece of that defense. So if anything, it feels like it's even more low risk to add Gilmore. I love this move from the Colts perspective. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.